Good morning, students. Today we're going to be talking about two aspects of Roman culture and kind of Roman religion. And how I wanted to do that today is I wanted to read to you a little bit from this book that I have here. Okay. So this book right here is a really great resource. It talks a lot about ancient Rome. Okay. So the first topic we're going to cover is the worshiping of different gods in ancient Rome. Okay, do you see that? Okay, I'm going to start out by reading a little bit. The ancient Romans worshipped the same gods as the Greeks, but they gave them different names. The Greek god Zeus, for example, was called Jupiter, and the goddess Hera became Juno. People worshiped their gods through prayer, offerings of food and wine, and animal sacrifices. They also believed that natural things such as trees, rivers, and objects that were made, such as doors, hinges, and doorsteps, all had their own divine spirits. So they believed that different objects could even kind of have a spirit or kind of be a god. The head of the household was responsible for religious rituals in the home. Government officials performed religious duties in temples. Priests, called agers, examined the insides of dead animals and looked for meanings in the flight of birds, which they believed were messengers from gods. So these ancient Romans, they believed in different gods. And one of their practices was kind of looking inside of dead animals. Now, that's kind of gross. That's kind of detestable. And they're also going to look at how birds fly. So they might look at like a crow, just kind of flapping its wings. And then they're also going to look at different hawks and different eagles and kind of see them soar. And they're going to believe that these different animals kind of mean different things and have different signs as part of their religion. The expansion of the Roman Empire introduced Rome to new religions. These were permitted and provided worshippers did not ignore the Roman gods or threaten Roman government. So eventually the Roman Empire is going to expand throughout Europe and the Mediterranean world. And as they do that, they're going to be picking up different aspects and religions from other people. The Jews and Christians endured many hardships because their beliefs challenged the emperor's authority. So during that time, the Romans really kind of spread out even to the countries of Israel and a lot of that Middle Eastern section. And the Romans are not going to like the Christians because they're going to challenge Rome's authority. So the Roman Empire is going to be okay with lots and lots of different religions from Greece, from Africa, from the Middle East, as long as that religion doesn't really threaten the Roman Republic and their expanse and trying to create this big empire. Okay. I'm going to read this little section about religion from Egypt. The worship of Isis, the goddess of heaven and earth, first became fashionable in Rome after the Egyptian queen Cleopatra spent a year there. Later, Isis had followers throughout the empire. So here is a statue of Isis, the god from Egypt. So she's going to be a common god that they're going to worship. Okay, the Vestals. The Vesta goddess of the hearth was worshipped in every household. 6 priestesses, or Vestals, tended her shrine in the Rome's forum, and they had to keep this sacred fire burning continuously. It was a great honor to be chosen as a Vestal. So these different women, these different young girls, they're going to be chosen to keep this fire burning. And that's one way that the Romans kind of honored religion and their god, by having these young girls keep a fire burning. Now, they couldn't let this fire go out, otherwise they'd be in trouble. Let's see here. Persian gods. Many Romans worshipped Mithras, the bull slayer, god of light and wisdom. Mithras was supposed to have been holding a sword. So here is a photo down here at the bottom of Mithras, the god of the Persians. Okay. So as you can see, the Romans are really going to kind of pick up different gods and worship them from different countries, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to write a term down in our copybook. And the term that we're going to write down is going to be polytheistic or polytheism, okay? Polytheistic or polytheism is the worship of many gods. Now, you want to know that the Romans, they're going to kind of adopt many of these different gods as part of their own culture, and they're going to worship them as a society. Okay. So copy that down. If you need to pause the video, you may. And then the next term I want to write down, you to write down, is culture. Okay. So culture is the way of life for a group of people. So when you think about Roman culture, you want to think about kind of the family structure. You want to think about what gods do they worship? How do they interact? What types of government do they have? How are children treated? What are the different roles for men and women? So culture is going to be very important to every group of people. And we're going to kind of dive in a little bit more about Roman culture. So we already examined the culture about gods they worshipped. The next kind of topic we want to examine is going to be family roles and family life. Okay, so I'll show you the picture right here. So this is an example of what a Roman family might look like. Okay, let's begin. Marriage and family life. The father was the head of the household. He was called the pater families and had complete power over his family and slaves. So the man, the husband, he's going to be the one who is going to be the leader of the Roman family. Although men legally controlled women, husbands often consulted with their wives in private about public matters. So even though the husband or the man was in control, he would still ask his wife for kind of counsel or guidance to make some of these decisions. Women were not entirely without rights, but they never became full citizens in ancient Rome. Widows could own property, and some women became priestesses, shoppers, hairdressers, midwives, or doctors. Highborn women employed slaves to raise children, shop, clean, and cook. Okay, so the women, they control what happened to the slaves, and they would have the slaves kind of work for them and kind of help them keep their house. Parents arranged. The wedding date was chosen carefully, and the second half of July was considered a lucky time. Are any of you born in July? Maybe it's a lucky time, according to the Romans. So I do want to talk a little bit about arranged marriages. Do you know what an arranged marriage means? Think about that. What is an arranged marriage? Okay, so an arranged marriage means your parents get to choose who you're going to marry. The parents of the bride and the husband and the groom, they're going to talk and say, hey, we think that this person would make a good wife for this young Roman. And what they're going to do is they're going to say, okay, you marry them. They're not going to give the children a choice. So that's another interesting aspect about Roman culture, is they're really going to be controlling kind of the families that are going to be created and who gets to marry who. Okay. A priest would study the inside of a dead animal looking for signs that would indicate good fortune for the married couple. Girls married at about 14, wow, that's really early, and wore a metal wedding ring above on the left, on their finger of their left hand. Okay. So here's an example of the metal wedding ring right here that the woman would wear. And it's crazy. The ancient Roman woman would get married at age 14. Now most of you guys are age 11 and 12. So just think, in 2 years, you would be kind of promised to be married to someone in ancient Rome. That's crazy. Okay. A marriage was not final until a wife had stayed in her husband's home for a full year. Okay, so that's kind of the rules of marriage in ancient Rome. So you can see it's probably a wedding that is taking place in ancient Rome. All right, so now that we've talked about kind of marriage and life, let's talk a little bit about the slaves' lives. Thousands of prisoners from Greece, Egypt, North Africa, Britain, and other conquered lands labored as slaves in homes, fields, mines, workshops, and on building projects. They were punished severely for work badly done or for running away, and some slaves had to wear identity tags and collars below, but not all were ill-treated. Treat your slaves with kindness, advised the philosopher Seneca. Many educated Greek slaves became teachers or doctors. Some slaves earned wages and saved to buy their freedom. So many of these slaves would be working on roads and different building projects and also in the houses of the ancient Romans as well. So I'm going to show you a picture of some of the things that the slaves would wear to kind of help identify them. So see that kind of like pendant or button up towards the top? Slaves would wear that to kind of help identify who they were. And then some slaves would also be wearing this collar located right here to kind of show that, hey, these people are Roman slaves. However, some Roman slaves wouldn't have to be slaves forever, as they could buy their freedom and their independence. This is a very interesting part about culture, is faces from the past. Look at this photo right here. Now this photo is going to be a fresco that is going to be found in ancient Rome. Let me read you a little bit about that fresco right here. Okay, faces from the past. Roman couples often had their likeness or their image painted on wood or as frescoes on their walls of their houses. This portrait was found in the house of ancient Pompeii. So many times, unlike the Greeks, the Romans, they're going to have their image or their portrait or their face painted on their walls. So my question is, how are the frescoes in ancient Rome different than the frescoes in ancient Greece? I'll give you a minute to think about that. Okay, so one reason that I realize that frescoes are kind of different in ancient Rome is it's a portrait. So it's a painting of their face on the wall. Whereas in ancient Greece, it was a portrait or a painting of maybe kind of their way of life, like fishing or bulls or some of the kind of sailing of ships. So that's kind of the difference between some of the frescoes in ancient Rome and ancient Greece. So now we're going to talk about women and kind of what they did for entertainment. So see this picture right here? At play. Okay. At play, rich women amused themselves by playing music. They often sat on high-backed bronze chairs, which were a sign of wealth. Most Romans sat on women's stools. So this kind of shows the upper-class woman in ancient Rome who really enjoyed learning different musical instruments, as well as kind of showing off their wealth by sitting on this huge bronze chair, kind of like a throne, which kind of showed their wealth and their status to society. Okay, so that is just a little bit about kind of Roman gods, and also a little bit about married life, kind of how kids are raised and how they form families. So we're going to kind of end our lesson here. But we'll pick up in the future talking a little bit more about Roman culture. Bye.